The diversion is set. We proceed with the extraction as planned. Stay focused. Agreed. The structural integrity is failing. We must hurry.
The alarm on Station Vale doesn't ease into warning. It screams, 3 sharp bursts that mean only one thing to everyone aboard. Something has breached the outer ring. Security Officer Reyes, our narrator, is mid-sip of coffee when the klaxon hits and the mug shatters against the console before conscious thought even catches up with motion. Reyes is already running. Station Chief Dr. Osei's voice comes through the comm, tightly controlled but unmistakably strained. The tone of someone working hard not to panic. He explains that the Threnian Envoy's ship has come through the jump gate 6 hours ahead of schedule. Reyes initially dismisses this as a scheduling anomaly rather than a crisis, but OC clarifies that the real problem isn't timing. It's the manifest. Only 1 passenger was listed for this transit. Sensors, however, are reading 2 life signs, and one of them is bleeding. Reyes reaches the docking bay doors at a full sprint and slams a palm against the access panel. The doors groan open just as the Threnian shuttle locks into the clamps, its hull still hissing with condensation from a jump that, by all appearances, it shouldn't have survived intact. Months of careful diplomatic preparation, treaty language, translator calibration, rehearsed ceremonial gestures, are unraveling before the doors have even finished opening. Inside the control terminal area, Dr. Osei stares at a display full of erratic biometric data. He confirms again 2 life signs. One is Ambassador Vec. The other is, improbably, human and fading fast. Reyes is stunned. No additional human passenger was ever scheduled for this transit. The shuttle door begins to slide open on its own, its servos grinding audibly, evidence of damage sustained during the flight. Reyes raises both hands, the universal cross-species gesture for "I am not a threat," a signal understood by roughly 40 documented species, including the Threnians themselves, who had taught it to humans during first contact. As the door finishes opening, Ambassador Vec staggers out first. His chitin-plated shoulders are scraped raw, and the luminous markings along his throat, a Threnian biological signal system tied to emotion, flicker in an agitated, uneven violet. Vec announces, through a translator crackling with static, that there has been an attack. Boarders infiltrated the shuttle during transit. His personal guard is dead. He does not know whether the human aboard has survived. Behind him, dragged upright by 2 malfunctioning stabilizer drones, is a woman Reyes has never seen before. Her dark hair is matted with blood at the temple. She wears a station-style jacket that matches no known crew roster, and a security badge clipped to her collar has been deliberately damaged, melted, as if by a plasma torch, in an apparent effort to conceal her identity. Despite the damage, 3 letters remain legible, i.e. SO, Intelligence Service Operative. This is a level of classified operation that Station Vale has no clearance to even acknowledge, let alone host. Reyes catches the woman as her knees buckle and asks Vec who she is. Vec explains that she introduced herself only as Callan. She boarded his shuttle alone, and without authorization at the final transit checkpoint, and told him she was the only reason he would reach the station alive. That statement lands heavily. Reyes asks, alive from what? Vec's throat markings shift to a slow, deliberate red. In Threnian physiology, the color associated with grief rather than alarm. He explains that certain members of his own royal court view peace with humanity as a betrayal of old historical conflicts. He had no idea they would go so far as to plant an operative aboard his own ship to stop the treaty from being signed. At that moment, Callan regains partial consciousness. She grips Reyes's wrist with unexpected strength, her eyes snapping open with sudden, sharp clarity, and delivers a critical warning. The attack on the shuttle wasn't an isolated act. There is a second device, already planted somewhere on the station itself. The docking bay falls into stunned silence, broken only by the hum of the shuttle's clamps releasing pressure. When OC asks what kind of device, Callan, struggling upright despite a medic's attempts to restrain her, explains that it is timed to detonate during the treaty signing ceremony itself, in full view of every live broadcast camera on the station. The goal isn't simply to kill the ambassador, it's to humiliate everyone who believed peace was achievable, by making it appear on a galaxy-wide broadcast that a human station murdered a Threnian ambassador in cold blood. Reyes asks how much time remains before this can happen, but Callan doesn't know precisely. She had been tracking a courier who planted the device and lost his trail across 3 separate jumps. That's when his partner ambushed her instead. Before dying, the partner unwillingly gave up an encryption key which Callan extracted and hid. That key, she says, will reveal what the device looks like, though not its exact location. Reyes presses further, why would ISO send a single operative alone into hostile territory for something this serious without warning the station in advance? Callan's answer is bitter. Someone inside her own agency leaked the ceremony's schedule to the very people trying to sabotage it. She no longer knows who within her own organization can be trusted. The one exception, she says, might be Vec himself, who had rescued her from the wreckage of her own ship 2 systems earlier when no one else came looking for survivors. Standing between a wounded human intelligence operative and an alien ambassador, 2 people who have each survived 2 separate assassination attempts within a single transit window, Reyes realizes with cold certainty that whatever is coming will not wait politely for the station to be ready. Reyes proposes either moving the ceremony up or canceling it outright, but Callan firmly rejects cancellation. Giving in to fear, she argues, is exactly what the conspirators want. Instead, she asks for 1 hour to analyze the encryption key using the station's own systems, hoping to locate the device before it finds them first. Though every instinct says to leave this to more senior officers and keep Callan on the gurney, Reyes instead insists on accompanying her personally. Callan, visibly unused to being trusted or supported, agrees, but warns that if things go wrong, they'll go wrong fast. The 3 of them, Reyes, Callan, and Vec, whose throat markings are gradually cooling from red toward a watchful blue, head together toward the station's security wing. The encryption key turns out to be smaller than expected, a sliver of black polymer embedded just beneath the skin of Callan's forearm. She extracts it herself, wincing but steady-handed, and feeds it into the station's analysis terminal. The screen fills with cascading data, falsified Threnian shipping manifests, disguised cargo routes, a web of shell companies, all ultimately tracing back to 3 specific names within Ambassador Vec's own royal court. Callan identifies the critical lead, a cargo pod, registered as ordinary agricultural equipment, delivered to the station 11 hours earlier, well before anyone even knew the ambassador's transit had been compromised. This detail matters enormously because it confirms the device isn't remotely triggered. Instead, it's proximity and timestamp based, synced specifically to the scheduled live broadcast window of the ceremony. Whether the ambassador arrived early, late, or on time was irrelevant. The bomb will detonate the instant the cameras go live. Cross-referencing delivery logs against the station's storage records, the team locates the pod, Bay 11, Sublevel 3, an old, largely forgotten storage section that hasn't been properly inspected in years. Despite protests from the medical staff, Callan insists on going herself, and Reyes doesn't try to stop her. Beck follows as well. After everything that's happened, no one is willing to leave him behind unprotected. The storage bay is dim, dusty, and cluttered with towering, disorganized crates. Callan finds the disguised device wedged between 2 containers belonging to a farming cooperative that, according to station records, went out of business 6 months earlier. The device's casing is engineered so cleverly that it reads as standard agricultural sensor equipment on routine scans, the kind of thing that could have sat undiscovered for years. To disarm it, Callan needs the pod's internal schematics, which are included in the shipping data and are almost certainly encrypted separately by whoever built it. This is where Vec becomes critical. He recognizes the casing seam pattern instantly as court manufacture. Specifically, devices historically overseen by his own former guard captain, a man quietly removed from his post years earlier under circumstances the court never fully explained. Vec's markings shift into a steady, resolute gold, a color Reyes hasn't seen from him before, and he grimly observes that some conspiracies don't end just because you've left them behind. They simply wait for you somewhere new. Callan connects a compact data reader directly to the device. The readout confirms the timer is live. 40 minutes remain until the ceremony's broadcast window. To interrupt the trigger sequence, she needs a court-level authorization override, one keyed specifically to Vec's own biometric signature. Without hesitation, Vec presses his palm against the reader. His markings flare bright gold as the device's casing splits open, revealing a tangle of internal components that mean nothing to Reyes but everything to Callan. Working carefully, Callan extracts a single glowing filament from deep inside the device and sets it down on the deck as though it were both delicate and dangerous. The countdown on her reader freezes, then goes dark completely. For a long, quiet moment, all three of them simply kneel there in the abandoned storage bay, a space that, minutes earlier, had been on track to become the trigger point for an interstellar war. In the aftermath, a brief, exhausted exchange of gallows humor passes between Reyes and Callan, a shared, unguarded laugh that feels like the first real moment of relief since the alarms first sounded. Vec rises, his markings finally settling into a calm, steady blue. He declares that the ceremony will proceed exactly as scheduled. Not because the danger has vanished entirely, but because there will always be people who prefer old wars to uncertain peace, and he refuses to let them dictate what his people's future becomes. 3 hours later, under the full glare of live station cameras and the scrutiny of two governments with decades of accumulated mistrust between them, Ambassador Vec formally signs the treaty establishing the first permanent trade corridor between humans and Threnians. Callan stands at the edge of the ceremony hall, her jacket torn and her ribs still bandaged, refusing every offer of medical leave until the signing is fully complete. The story closes on the station's observation deck, where the stars drift slowly and indifferently beyond the reinforced glass. Callan finds Reyes there, and the two share a quiet, understated conversation about how neither of today's most dangerous moments, catching a stranger collapsing in the docking bay or descending into a storage bay to disarm a live explosive, technically fell under either of their assigned duties. For the first time since the alarms first tore through the corridor, the station finally feels quiet, not fully safe, not entirely free of future threats, but calm in the particular, earned way that only comes after surviving something real.